My name is Selene Carter, and for the past 5 years, I lived the life most women envied. A Dubai mansion, luxury vacations, designer wardrobes, the perfect marriage to a billionaire. Or so it seemed. I met Darius Al-Fayed in London, where I worked as a luxury interior designer. He was a client, charming, powerful, devastatingly handsome. The kind of man who made people turn their heads when he walked into a room. But beneath his expensive suits and confident smirk, there was something darker. A quiet intensity. A sense that he always knew more than he let on. He swept me off my feet faster than I could think. One moment, I was just another girl with dreams of making it big in the world of luxury design. The next, I was standing inside a Dubai penthouse, a diamond ring on my finger, and a man promising me a future beyond my wildest dreams. Our wedding was a spectacle, a 3-day celebration at the Burj Al Arab, attended by royalty, billionaires, and celebrities. I became Mrs. Al-Fayed, the envy of socialites who whispered about how lucky I was. But luck is just another word for ignorance. At first, Darius was everything a husband should be. Protective, generous, passionate, too passionate. His love felt intoxicating, but also suffocating. Ignored the red flags. The late-night calls he'd take in hushed tones. The business trips to places that didn't match his official itinerary. The strangers at our parties who greeted him with a knowing smile, as if they shared a secret I wasn't part of. I convinced myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me, that I was overthinking. But the first crack in our marriage appeared a year ago. It was a small thing, an overheard conversation. I had woken up late one night and found Darius in his study, speaking on the phone in Arabic. His voice was low, urgent, different. I barely understood what he was saying, but I caught 2 words clearly. Keep her unaware. A chill ran down my spine. I should have asked him about it. I should have dug deeper. But instead, I did what every woman in denial does. I pretended I didn't hear it. Because admitting the truth would have meant accepting that my perfect life was a lie. For months, I played the role of the devoted wife, the elegant hostess, the woman who smiled at charity galas and posed for Vogue Middle East. But the doubts never left me. They grew louder, creeping into every moment of my life. Then came the final straw. A message on his phone. A name I had never seen before. Amara. 1 word. A name that would change everything. Because when I dug deeper, I realized Darius wasn't just hiding business secrets. He was hiding an entire life. And that was when I knew. This story wouldn't end with just a broken heart. It would end in blood. It started with a text message, a single notification that shattered the fragile illusion I had been living in. Darius had left his phone on the marble counter of our villa's open kitchen, a rarity. He never left his phone unattended. He guarded it like a secret vault, always password protected, always tucked away. But that night, he was in the shower, and his phone was right there. It vibrated. Once. Twice. Then silence. Curiosity tugged at me. Just a glance. Just one look. I reached for it with trembling fingers, my pulse quickening as I tapped the screen. New message. Amara. When will I see you again? She doesn't suspect anything, right? My breath caught in my throat. I read the message again. And again. She doesn't suspect anything. A sharp, icy sensation crawled down my spine. Who was Amara? Before I could process my next move, the shower turned off. The sound of running water ceased. Panic gripped me. I quickly put the phone back, stepped away, and forced myself to act normal. My mind spun as I grabbed a glass of wine, my hands trembling. As I took a sip, Darius emerged from the bathroom moments later, a towel around his waist, water droplets glistening on his muscular chest. He shot me a lazy, satisfied smile, running a hand through his damp black hair. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, walking toward me. I forced a smile. "Just thinking." "About?" I hesitated. If I asked about Amara now, I wouldn't be ready for his response. I needed proof, so I shook my head. "Nothing important." He leaned down, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "Come to bed." And just like that, the man I loved, the man I had built my life around, walked past me as if nothing had changed. But it had. Everything had. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Darius's car roaring down the driveway. He was heading to his office in downtown Dubai, like he did every Monday. Except today, I wasn't going to sit at home playing the clueless wife. I needed answers. I went straight to his office, expecting to catch him in some kind of lie. Maybe I'd find a clue in his meetings, a hint that Amara was just a colleague, someone insignificant. But when I arrived, the receptionist, a young woman named Layla, greeted me with a confused expression. "Oh, Mrs. Al-Fayed, I didn't know you were back in the city." I frowned. "Back? I never left." She hesitated. "Oh, I just assumed, since Mr. Al-Fayed has been flying to Qatar so often." My stomach twisted. Qatar? Darius never mentioned Qatar. Layla must have seen the confusion on my face because she quickly added, "He usually goes with his partner, I forget her name. Amara, I think?" The world around me tilted. Amara. There she was again. "Right," I forced out. "Of course." Layla smiled, unaware that she had just confirmed my worst fear. Darius wasn't just cheating. He had been traveling with her, taking her on business trips, bringing her into his world. And I had been sitting at home like a fool, completely unaware. Spent the next few days spiraling, checking his receipts, looking at his travel logs, scouring his emails late at night when he was asleep. Everything led back to her. Then, I found the hotel reservations. A 5-star resort in Doha, Qatar. A week-long stay, booked under Mr. and Mrs. Al-Fayed. Mrs. Al-Fayed. My title. My name. My world imploded. The rage that built inside me wasn't just about the affair. It was about the depth of his lies. How long had this been going on? How many people knew? Was I the only fool in this entire city? I needed to see her. Face to face. I needed to look into Amara's eyes and see what kind of woman had stolen my husband. That's when I did something reckless. I found her Instagram, a perfectly curated life. Lavish dinners, sunset yacht parties, business class flights. She looked younger than me, maybe 25. Long jet black hair, sun-kissed skin, a model's body. Exotic, beautiful, confident. And then I saw the photo that changed everything. A picture of Darius's watch, a Rolex, custom made. The one I had given him on our anniversary. She had posted it with the caption, "Missing him already." She wasn't just his mistress. She was his second wife. That's when the shock turned to something darker. This wasn't just about cheating. This was a secret life. A second marriage. A betrayal beyond anything I had imagined. And suddenly I knew. This wouldn't end with just a confrontation. It would end in blood. I couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, pressing down on my chest like a weight. My hands trembled as I stared at my phone, the image of Amara's post still burning in my mind. Missing him already. She was talking about my husband. I clenched my jaw, trying to swallow the bitterness rising in my throat. My fingers hovered over the screen, itching to type something, to say something. But what could I say? "You're sleeping with a married man? You're ruining my life? You stole him from me?" None of it would change the truth. Darius had chosen her, and I had been living a lie. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. I hadn't slept. How could I? The bed that once felt luxurious now felt cold, empty, suffocating. Darius was still asleep, beside me, his breathing deep and steady, completely unaware of the storm raging inside me. I turned to him, watching his face in the dim light. He looked peaceful, too peaceful, like a man who carried no guilt, no regret. I wanted to shake him, awake to demand answers, to scream, "Who is she to you? Why did you do this to me?" But I couldn't. Not yet. If I confronted him without proof, he'd lie. He'd twist his words, gaslight me into believing I was imagining things. No. I had to be smart. So instead, I slipped out of bed, walked to the bathroom, and locked the door behind me. Then, I made a call. "Hassan, I need your help." There was a pause on the line, then a sigh. "Selene, this early? What's wrong?" Hassan was an old friend, a private investigator, someone I had trusted long before Darius ever came into my life. I gripped the sink, my reflection staring back at me in the mirror, pale, tired, furious. "I need you to look into someone, a woman named Amara. She's connected to Darius." A beat of silence. "Connected how?" Hassan asked carefully. I closed my eyes. "She's calling herself Mrs. Al-Fayed." A curse slipped from his lips, then more. "Seriously," he said. "Selene, tell me exactly what you found." So I did. The texts, the trips, the hotel bookings, the Rolex. And by the time I finished, my hands were shaking. Hassan exhaled sharply. "If what you're saying is true, this is bigger than an affair. You're talking about bigamy. That's illegal here, Selene." I swallowed hard. I knew that. I just hadn't let myself think about it until now. Darius wasn't just cheating. He had committed a crime. Hassan's voice softened. "Listen, I'll find out everything, but you need to be careful. If Darius is keeping this secret, he won't let you expose him easily." I gripped the phone tighter. "I don't care, Hassan. I need the truth. Because this wasn't just about a broken heart anymore. This was about revenge." That evening, I sat across from Darius at dinner. The dining table was set beautifully. Candlelight, flickering, the scent of saffron and grilled lamb filling the air. A perfect scene. But I wasn't looking at the food. I was looking at him. Darius sipped his wine casually, unaware that I was studying his every move. His fingers tapped on his phone, a faint smirk playing on his lips. Was he texting her? Was he telling her he missed her? That he couldn't wait to see her again? I gritted my teeth, forcing a smile when he glanced up. "You're quiet tonight," he remarked, setting his glass down. I shrugged. "Just tired." His gaze lingered on me for a moment too long, as if he was trying to read me. I held my breath. Did he know? Did he suspect that I was onto him? Then he smiled, a slow, knowing smile, and something about it sent a chill through me. "I have to fly to Qatar tomorrow," he said casually. "Just for a meeting. I'll be back in 2 days." Qatar. The lie rolled off his tongue so easily, so effortlessly. Clenched my fork beneath the table. "Work again?" "Of course." He smirked, swirling the wine in his glass. "You know how it is." "No, Darius, I didn't. Because while you were in Qatar, wrapped up in your secret world, I was going to destroy everything you had built." I sat in the corner of a dimly lit cafe, the scent of strong Arabic coffee filling the air. My hands were clenched around the ceramic cup, though I had no intention of drinking it. Across from me, Hassan slid an envelope across the table. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes carried something I hadn't seen before. Pity, "You need to see this," he said. My breath hitched as I reached for the envelope. My fingers trembled as I pulled out the photos. The first one was of Darius, dressed in a crisp white kandura, standing outside a lavish villa in Doha. His arm was wrapped around a woman, Amara, but it was the second picture that nearly made me vomit. Darius wasn't just standing next to her. He was holding a child, a little girl, no older than 3. Dark curls, big brown eyes, his eyes. I slapped the stack of photos onto the table, my vision blurring. Hassan's voice was low. "Selene, she's not just his mistress. She's his wife. And that child, I know." My voice was hollow. "She's his daughter." The air left my lungs. It was one thing to find out my husband was having an affair. It was another to discover that he had a whole second family. He had stood in front of me, kissed me, lied to my face, all while living a double life in another country, a legal marriage, a child. And I had been nothing more than his secret. The rage inside me boiled over as I drove back to our villa. The tires screeched against the pavement as I parked in the driveway, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. How long had he been playing me? I stormed inside, slamming the door behind me. The sound echoed through the massive house, but Darius was nowhere to be seen. Of course not. He was in Qatar. With them. I stumbled into our bedroom, my mind racing. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered promise, it had all been a lie. My chest heaved as I yanked open his closet, ripping his clothes off the hangers, throwing his expensive suits to the floor. Then, I saw it. A locked drawer. My hands shook as I grabbed one of his golf trophies and smashed it open. Inside, I found documents, passports, bank statements, and then a marriage certificate, Darius Al-Fayed, married to Amara Hassan. 7 years ago. My world tilted. 7 years. That was before me. I gasped. I wasn't his first wife. I was the other woman. The walls of my life collapsed around me. I had spent years believing I was his queen, his one true love. In reality, I had been his mistress all along. I don't remember much after that. I just remember standing in front of the mirror, staring at the woman I no longer recognized. Tears streamed down my face, mixing with the mascara smudged beneath my eyes. I had loved him, given him everything, and he had built an entire empire of deception around me. My fingers tightened around the marriage certificate until the paper crumpled in my hands. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to end this. Sat in the darkness of our villa, waiting. The curtains swayed gently as the night breeze drifted through the open balcony doors. The entire house was silent, except for the rhythmic ticking of the antique clock in the hallway. Tick, tick, tick. Each second felt heavier than the last. Darius was coming home tonight. I knew his routine. He always returned from his business, trips late at night, slipping into bed beside me as if nothing had happened. But tonight, he wouldn't be slipping into anything. The front door opened. I heard the jingle of his car keys hitting the table, the soft thud of his leather shoes against the marble floors. He was back. I tightened my grip around the marriage certificate, my knuckles turning white. My proof. My ammunition. I stepped out of the shadows and into the dim glow of the chandelier. Darius turned and froze the moment he saw me. His expression flickered. Confusion first, then something else. Wariness. "Selene," he said cautiously. "Why are you awake?" I tilted my head, a humorless smile curling on my lips. I was waiting for my husband. His sharp eyes flickered across the room, scanning me, calculating. He knew something was wrong. Is everything okay? He stepped forward, his voice smooth, like he could charm his way out of anything. I threw the marriage certificate at him. It fluttered through the air before landing at his feet. His eyes darkened. "Pick it up," I whispered. Darius exhaled through his nose but didn't move. "Selene, listen to me. Pick it up," I snapped. My voice was shaking, but not from fear, from rage. For a second he hesitated, but then slowly, he bent down and picked up the crumpled paper. His eyes scanned the words, and for the first time in our marriage, he had nothing to say. I took a step forward. 7 years. My voice was eerily calm. "You've been married to her for 7 years. Darius ran a hand over his face, exhaling sharply. "Selene, it's not what you think." "Not what I think?" I let out a bitter laugh. "So you're not legally married to Amara? You don't have a daughter with her? You didn't make a fool out of me?" His jaw tensed. His silence said everything. I slapped him. The sharp sound echoed through the villa. His head snapped to the side, but he didn't react. He just stood there, unmoving, breathing heavily. "You lied to me," I whispered, my voice breaking. "Every single day. Every time you touched me. Every time you looked me in the eyes and told me I was the only one." Darius slowly turned back to me, his face unreadable. "You don't understand," I scoffed. "Oh, I understand just fine. I was never your wife. I was just your other woman." He opened his mouth to speak, but I wasn't finished. "You knew, didn't you?" My voice was shaking. "You knew I would find out eventually. That's why you were always so careful. The business trips, the fake meetings, the secrecy." I shook my head. "You planned this. You played me." Darius's gaze darkened. "I never played you, Selene." "Don't." I held up my hand. "Don't you dare stand there and pretend you loved me." Silence stretched between us. Then, after what felt like an eternity, he sighed. A deep, resigned sigh. "You were never supposed to find out." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You were never supposed to find out." I felt the floor beneath me sway. Everything was real. And at the same time, none of it was. I took a shaky breath. "Why, Darius?" He ran a hand through his hair, his shoulders tensing. "It's complicated." I let out a dry laugh. "Try me." Darius hesitated. Then finally he spoke. "When I married Amara, it was for business," he admitted. "Her family is powerful in Qatar. Our marriage secured deals worth billions. It was never supposed to be emotional." I crossed my arms, my nails digging into my skin. "But you had a child with her." His jaw clenched. "That wasn't planned." I felt my stomach twist in disgust. "And me? What was I?" Darius met my gaze. "I loved you, Selene. I still do." I shook my head, tears burning in my eyes. "No, you don't get to say that. Love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't lie, doesn't deceive, doesn't shatter a person into a million pieces." He stepped closer, reaching for me. But I stepped back. For the first time since I had met him, Darius looked desperate. "Selene, I can fix this. I'll end things with Amara. I'll make it right." I stared at him, my lips curling in disgust. "You think this is fixable?" His silence was my answer. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I'm leaving." Darius's expression hardened. "No, you're not." My heart pounded. "You don't get to tell me what to do anymore," I said firmly. His eyes turned cold, calculating. "You don't understand what you're doing." I swallowed hard. Oh, I do. For the first time, I do. He exhaled, pinching the bridge of his nose. Selene, be reasonable. You walk away from me and you lose everything. I let out a bitter laugh. You think I care about the money? Darius smirked. You should, because without me, you're nothing. I stared at him, my heart breaking all over again. I had loved this man, trusted him, given him everything. And now, I was just an inconvenience to him. Something inside me snapped. You're wrong, Darius, I whispered. Without you, I'm finally free. I turned on my heel, walking away. I could feel his gaze burning into my back, but I didn't stop. Not when he called my name. Not when he cursed under his breath. Not when he slammed his fist against the table in frustration. I had wasted too much time loving a man who never truly belonged to me. And now, I was going to make sure he paid for what he had done, because this wasn't over. Not yet. I walked out of that house and never looked back. At least that's what I wanted to do. But revenge doesn't work that way. I knew Darius. I knew how he operated. He wasn't going to just let me go. I wasn't just a wife he had betrayed. I was a threat, and threats, in his world, needed to be eliminated. The first sign came the next morning, a bank alert on my phone. All my accounts? Frozen. Darius had wasted no time. He wanted to strip me of everything, my money, my lifestyle, my freedom. But he underestimated me. I had spent years living in his world, watching how he moved, how he controlled people. And I had prepared for this moment in ways he never expected. I had my own accounts. Secret ones. Offshore. Created through Hassan's connections months ago, back when I first suspected something was off. Darius thought he had left me powerless. He was wrong. 2 days later, Hassan called me. You need to meet me. Now. His voice was urgent, tight with something I couldn't place. We met in an underground parking lot in downtown Dubai, far from prying eyes. Hassan pulled me into his car and handed me a USB drive. That's everything, he said. I frowned. Everything? He exhaled. Darius isn't just a liar, Selene. He's a criminal. Offshore accounts, tax fraud, money laundering, even human trafficking links. My blood ran cold. I knew he was corrupt, but this? My voice shook. This is how men like him stay on top, Hassan said grimly. They do whatever it takes, no matter who gets hurt. I clenched the USB in my hand. Are you sure you want to do this? Hassan asked. I looked at him. Darius ruined my life. I exhaled sharply. It's time I return the favor. I moved fast. Before Darius could track my next steps, I flew to London. The media would never touch a scandal tied to a billionaire like Darius in the Middle East, but in Europe, in America, this was big news, and I had all the proof I needed. I leaked everything, the finances, the affairs, the illegal deals. Within days, headlines exploded. Dubai tycoon Darius Al-Fayed, exposed in billion-dollar fraud scandal. Secret second wife, leaked documents reveal shocking double life. Authorities investigating allegations of financial crimes and offshore laundering. Darius's empire began to crumble. His investors pulled out. His businesses were investigated. His reputation destroyed. And Amara, she disappeared. Vanished overnight. Didn't know if she ran or if Darius silenced her. But I had bigger things to worry about, because now I was his biggest problem. The threats started soon after. Anonymous messages. Dark SUVs parked near my hotel. A shadow of a man following me through the streets of London. Darius was coming for me. I knew it, and I wasn't going to let him win. The night before my final move, I sat in my hotel room, staring at a single item on the desk. A gun. Hassan had given it to me just in case. My fingers hovered over it. Could I do it? If I came face to face with Darius again, would I pull the trigger? Would I become the kind of person he was? I didn't know the answer, but I knew. This I wouldn't go down without a fight. The final confrontation happened in Paris, a neutral ground, a place where neither of us held power. Darius had agreed to meet, believing I wanted to negotiate. He arrived in a black Bentley, stepping out like the king he thought he was, arrogant, confident, unbothered. "You've made a mess, Selene," he said, smoothly, taking a seat across from me at a private rooftop lounge. "But it's not too late to fix things." I smiled. "Oh, I think things are exactly how they should be." His jaw clenched. "You can't win this war." I leaned forward, meeting his gaze. "I already have." Darius exhaled, shaking his head. "You were never supposed to be my enemy." "Then you should have never made me your victim." A tense silence stretched between us. Then, he leaned back, smirking. "You'll never be safe," he said quietly. And that's when I knew. No matter where I ran, no matter how much I ruined him, Darius would never stop. He would hunt me, haunt me, make sure I never lived in peace. So I did the only thing I could. I ended it. A week later, Darius Al-Fayed was found dead. Mysterious circumstances, no witnesses. The police ruled it a business dispute gone wrong. No one suspected me. No one ever would. Because I had played my part perfectly. The grieving ex-wife. The woman who had lost everything. And now I was free. I stood on the balcony of my new apartment in Rome, watching the city lights flicker beneath me. The past was gone. Darius was gone. And for the first time in my life, I was truly, finally alive.